All right. What's up, everybody? Before I go into like the intro and all that and get into the book, welcome, first of all, to my virtual book tour. I've been going all over these social media platforms. So, a few days ago, I was on Facebook, and today I'm over on YouTube, and I'll be going over to other platforms as well. But before we get into it, I'm on my cell phone device, so I just want to see if I can share this to to multiple people, to the groups that I have. So if you could just give me a minute, and we're about to get right into it. Message. All right, I sent that to one person. I'm gonna keep sending, and again, we're about to get into it. I just saw somebody come on, so make sure you drop a comment, say hello. And if you could just give me a minute, again, I just want to share this to as many people as I can. All right. Excuse me if you hear any clicking. I should have had this done with my team. My team is my wife. But she's out grocery shopping right now, so I'm doing this. I'm doing this dolo right now. And give me about one more minute and we'll start. All right. So um, I'm just gonna go in faith and just get into it, and whoever hops on. This be great. And for whoever misses it, like this is going to be up for a limited time, but it will be posted again in a future program that I have coming. So let's just get started. My name is Sharif, Mr. Aim for I Am Ali, and I want to thank you for coming on to this virtual book tour via YouTube. Like I said earlier, last week we were over on Facebook and had a blast. And I want to keep the momentum going. I want to keep the energy just as exciting, and I want to mount to it like more and more every single time that I go to other platforms. So don't just stop here. Don't let this be your one-stop shop. I'll be over on Instagram. I'll be over on TikTok, I believe. I'll also be over in Clubhouse. So I'll make sure to upload to my post my schedule as to where I'm going to be in on what date, because I want you to join over if you have those other platforms as well. So again, I wrote a book. The title of it is From the Womb to His Mate. Womb is an acronym that stands for Words of a Mama's Boy. I'm so happy about this book. I'm proud about this book because not only has it impacted other people's lives from what I've seen from people who've texted me or emailed me or left Amazon reviews, but it also reached an Amazon bestseller in its genre. And so for that, I'm just so excited. So I want to get into it. What we're going to be covering is one of the Mama's Boys types inside of this book. Now, I want to show you this because in this book, if you see in the table of contents, there is one, two, three, four different types of Mama's Boys that I have identified in my years of study. And we're going to go over one of those four. The one of the four that we're going to delve into, and not the whole chapter. To get the rest of the chapter, you're going to have to tour with me over to these other social media platforms. So make sure, by the way, make sure you like and you share this feed to your group or to whoever you think may need to know about this book, From the Womb to His Mate, Words of a Mama's Boy to His Mate. But again, I'll be going over the rest of this book through all of the virtual platforms, TikTok, Instagram, etc., etc. But I want to get into the minor. So I'm going to start from the beginning because you all missed part one, and I'm going to read right through. There will be like no expounding on it. But tonight, what I really want to delve into is a section of the book that talks about how the mother, how she doesn't see herself as meddling, but she sees her presence as meaningful. And sometimes, especially in the lives of these men who identify as mama's boys or maybe overly dependent on their mothers are so joint at the hip with them that the woman feels that pain, who is in love with this man, and she tries to explain to her dude, listen, your mom is meddling, and the mom is like she's being over dramatic. She, you know, nobody else, everybody else sees it this way, but I see it this way. It's not meddling link, it's meaningful. So how do you challenge that belief? So we're gonna get into that, but let's start from the beginning. Page 51. I overheard a conversation between my mother and wife on their way downtown. The beauty of butt dialing. Felicia and I disconnected calls, and less than a minute later, my phone vibrated. As soon as I pressed talk, I realized the conversation was not intended for my listening pleasure, but I listened anyway. Whoa, for real? In my absence, these two were talking about me. What stood out was what came from my mother. She said, Felicia, I worked so hard so my sons wouldn't have to. Hearing that statement, it crushed me. After years of confrontation with my wife because I start things and don't finish, from punishments by my mother for chores I did not perform, through meetings with supervisors about my superb ideas and creativity but lack of follow-up and attention to detail, I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. You see, my ambition, my drive, my grit, my persistence, and willpower were all explained in those 9 words. I worked hard so my sons wouldn't have to. Men that have a decent relationship with their mother at some point are attached to their mom's hips. The type of man in this chapter depends on his mother to approve of his decisions instead of trusting his own compass. He is the man that may go to work but comes home and plays video games and leaves chores for his wife to complete. He is a man who lives carelessly, waits for life to come to him while needing permission from his mother to go out and experience life. He is what I term the minor. The minor's mother behaves as his authoritarian, who he cannot make decisions without or else he'd lose his benefits package. He was trained through gifts to submit to mom, and the more favors she gives him over time, the more obligated he feels to her. The mother of this type has probably learned through trial and reward that her son will depend on her and if she does for him, which will get her a vote on his decision making. Let's talk about a guy I met. We'll call him Stefan. Stefan is a 32-year-old mama's boy. His mother paid for his undergraduate and graduate education out of pocket. Throughout the time, she also provided him with the means to live lavishly. While on summer abroad trips, his mother paid his cell phone bill monthly and went the extra mile paying for laundry service weekly. Stefan had been in a monogamous relationship with Sierra for 8 years. She has gone through her share of mommy drama. She has had to accept catty behavior from Stefan's mother on multiple occasions. Sierra puts forth effort to be a part of Stefan's family. She tried to gain acceptance. She dealt with Stefan's mama's boy's ways and still desired to be his wife. In order to make her his betrothal, there is one stipulation. His mother must agree to it. Stefan and his mom, Sarah, had the marriage conversation, and for him, it was as uncomfortable as a parent talking to their child about the birds and the bees. Sarah acknowledges her son's relationship. She plays nice in the sandbox with Sierra in public, but behind closed doors, she discourages her son from marrying Sierra. Consequently, he has not got down on one knee because he is waiting on his mother's approval. And that's still happening to this day. Stefan and other minors like him believe their decisions need to be made for them or given permission to do what many adults do independently. The minor does not believe he is responsible for leading his own life. The way he conducts himself affects his self-esteem. Insecurity overtakes him, and he is flushed with anxiety when he must decide. He is as dependent on his mother or a mother figure as an addict is to drugs. The minor has learned that his mother makes better choices than he, and he grew to trust her more than he trusts himself. This section is why he is the way he is. He isn't comfortable with shaping his world, so he needs it formed for him. The miner is like a robot. And as you know, a robot can only function based on its programming. And this robot has been programmed to be dependent on rules established for him and doesn't know how to be self governing. Being dependent on someone doesn't make him an odd duck. Most people in relationships, including you, depend on someone. We depend on the President of the United States of America to make sound decisions. We rely on our employers to sign for our pay at the end of any given pay period, and we trust that the banks who we hand our money over to, will do the right thing and manage it better than we ourselves are able to. A certain amount of dependency is necessary for all of us. Where it gets sketchy is when we are driven, and controlled by being overly dependent, which if the miner is honest, he can certainly relate. He is so others centered and reliant on people navigating his course rather than following his internal compass that the driving force behind his behavior becomes insecurity, a mistrust in his own decision making abilities. He believes the gifts, talents, and special skills are in everyone else but not found within himself. He is afraid to take risks and plays life in the safe zone. A mama's boy who may seem cowardly to others because he prefers to sit in the boat and wait for the ship to be sailed than to attempt steering the wheel for himself. A few years back, I counseled a teenager. During one of our sessions, he said, I shouldn't have to work hard. That's why I have older siblings. I'm the baby. And this way of thinking is spot on with how the miner thinks. When his life is not being ran for him, he runs disempowering stories in his head about how no one is there for him and how he's alone in this big world with no help. When his life isn't being ran for him, the miner somehow has concluded that adulthood is too burdensome for poor little him to endure. The miner suffers from being inordinately dependent. This means his reliance on others begins to span beyond his own mother and may carry over to even his friendships. Dependence becomes problematic when, without guidance, any person is unable to function and lead his own life accordingly without direction. Like a cell phone with a bad battery, the miner has a critical need to be plugged into a base for functionality. That base for him primarily is his mother. But again, I would like to point out perhaps his base can be reassigned to any person he thinks. The mother to the miner has created an impudent child. This man just cannot seem to take responsibility for his own welfare. Her concern for losing her son as he grows into his own is what feeds an insecurity within herself, and her grip becomes tighter. She is ardently intrusive in every aspect of her son's life. She worries that her son is too fragile to handle life's problems or a life partner. She is not comfortable with her boy living without her leading. I'm going to rewind. If you hear anything that you like, type rewind. She is not comfortable with her boy living without her leading. So I'm going to read to you a story. I'm going to recount a story of what happened with my wife and I when we were dating. All right. So here we go. When dating Felicia, my mother had a conversation with a girl from my past who I dated, and they both concluded that Felicia was too fast for me, to which I felt insulted because clearly they thought I was too slow. I knew what this girl's agenda was. She wanted to throw shade at Felicia so the spotlight of my mother's grace could be on her. But my mother, on the other hand, was so blinded by her fear of letting me live my life that she didn't even pay attention to who it was she spoke to, which, by the way, as a teenager, my mother didn't approve of me dating that girl either. But being too slow was the story of my life. And no one, I thought at the time, could help me keep the proper speed of my life's journey other than my mother. The minor is also the way he is because his mother has taught him indirectly that she is responsible of taking care of him until death they do part, and that her decisions without question are the best decisions because mama knows best. There is no time off for the mother to a minor. You think that with the amount of energy she put into meeting her son's needs, she would desire to fulfill some of her own aspirations. But the mother to the minor doesn't see it this way. He is her life. She has spent her motherhood pouring so much into his cup that hers has not been worth considering. She, however, does not perceive it this way. When it is all said and done, she's a mother first. And this is the way a mother proves her love is unending. For her, there is not taking away from her life, it is adding meaning to it. I'm going to read that again because that was Byers, okay? Here we go. There is no time off for the mother to a minor. You'd think that with the amount of energy she put into meeting her son's needs, she would desire to fulfill some of her aspirations. But the mother to the minor doesn't see it this way. He is her life. She has spent her motherhood pouring so much into his cup that hers has not been worth considering. She, however, does not perceive it this way. When it is all said and done, she's a mother first. And this is the way a mother proves her love is unending. For her, this is not taking away from her life. It is adding meaning to it. Man, that is deep. That is deep. I want to stop right there, and I think I'm going to. Well, I want to put a pause. I'm going to put a pause very quickly, and then I'm going to read another 2 paragraphs or so, and then we're going to go into another section called "How to Turn Mama's Boy into Big Papa." And what I'm going to do is in that section, I'm going to read one of the principles that you can use as a minor. Like this man who identifies as the minor, like he operates in insecurity, feels as if he cannot lead his own life, and he puts either his partner as his parent or he makes his mother the sole leader of his life. And when I say soul leader, I mean SOLE, like the soul, the only person to lead in his life. But before we go into that, I need to pause on what we just read. I want to talk quickly, and I want to get your feedback for those of you who are listening about how do you deal with a mother who doesn't see her presence, her overly being present as meddling, but she sees it as meaningful. This is a question that I get a lot from women who watch my material on YouTube, especially I obviously on this page when I upload about the Mama's Boy content. Like today, I read, and I didn't get to read all of it, but this lady was very frustrated and said how she was with a man who seemed to be like the minor, who would always put his mother first and would put his mother's family first, and he would put his family on the back burner. Um, and so it just really got me to thinking about the women who are struggling with this type of man, and also the man who identifies as this type, as the minor, how he is struggling as well. There's definitely a struggle between he, his mother, and his mate. And so the question is, how do you deal with a mother or a mother-in-law who does not see her being overly present as meddling, but she sees it as meaningful? There's something about a mother having meaning that is very hard to penetrate. No one, almost no one on this earth can tell a mother how to love her child. I know as a dad, you have to come with some real bars before you try to approach me and tell me how to love my children. And I'm a father. And I mean that not to downplay dads, because the role that I play in my children's life is impactful, it's meaningful, it's like indescribable. But I did not carry my children for 9 months. I did not breastfeed my children. I did not go through the stretches and the pulls and the aches and the pains like my wife did. So the love that she has is, I'm I'm not going to say like it's greater, but it's on a different level. I can't possibly love my children like a mother, because I don't know what it is for them to be inside of me and to nurture and nourish them before I even meet them. And so, with that being said, I think the first thing that needs to happen, if you are a wife listening to this and you are dealing with those type of mommy drama issues, like those that meal deal friction, and when I say meal deal, I mean mother-in-law, daughter-in-law meal deal. When you're feeling that meal deal friction, what you need to do first is understand that what this woman has is a belief. And beliefs are not impossible to penetrate nor to change, but beliefs are difficult to change when that person has this belief like it's a religious belief, like they just hold on to it, right? So the way to handle someone like that is to first understand that they have a belief. When you have an understanding that this person has a belief, then you'll finally start to speak to yourself and say, okay, the way that I feel about this situation, like the way that my mother-in-law is with my husband or with my boyfriend or however, I'm not crazy. She sometimes makes me feel crazy, makes me feel like I'm trying to compete against her, makes me feel like I'm jealous of her, or tells her son that, I'm wilding out, but I'm not. I'm not crazy. I'm actually battling my belief on how I believe my family unit should run against her belief. It's a battle of beliefs. And so the only thing that you can do, because you need to control yourself, is you need to have communication, exhaustive communication with your husband, with the man that you're in love with, about what your belief system is and how you run your familial unit, and allow him to express to you his agreement or his hesitation because of his insecurities and because of him not wanting to cause drama with his mother, or someone who may be a mother figure in his life, or anyone he sees as like that parent. So that's what you as a woman needs to do, is to have that, that necessary conversation. Now, as a man, as the minor, what you must realize is challenging your beliefs is essential. When we challenge our beliefs, we start to grow. All right. Um, if you were a baby, you're probably used to, because I know I do it to my children. Like, I would tell them, you know, no, you can't go over this person's house until I meet their parents. You can't go over this person's house until I meet their parents. You can't go over this person's house until I meet their parent. I keep on relaying that to my children over and over and over again. And so what happens is, if I continuously tell them that, at some point, maturity is supposed to kick in. And when like they're in their 20s or 30s or so, they don't then have to call dad and say, hey dad, is it okay if I go over my over children? As adults, they don't, or older, in their older age, like 19, 20, 21, 22, they don't have to necessarily call me to ask for permission to go to someone's house. And the necessary component, or the determining factor, is for me to speak to that other person's parent. They don't have to do that. Like, I'm not calling my mom today to ask her for permission to go over someone's house, as long as she has a relationship with their parent. That's just not going to happen, because there's ages and stages. So what I'm saying is, there are beliefs as a man that your mother or your parent may have downloaded into you, that now that you are at an age of maturity, you need to mature out of that belief and question that belief that you were given, so that you can grow Perhaps your mother gave you certain things like I'm the only woman in your life or I'm your first love. Maybe she gave you those, she downloaded that into your spirit so that you can remember loyalty to her, but now question that belief. You can question it like, okay, my mother says that she is my first love, okay, but she's not my only love. Like I love this woman, you know, or I'm in love with my wife, you know. Those are the certain things that you have to question so that you can come to a more mature answer. So how do you combat a mother who does not feel like she's meddling but she's meaningful? You focus on yourself and you start to ask yourself those questions, like start to question your beliefs about how you feel about the way she is, about the way you operate, and then you can start to get to a place of growth. And then also and lastly, when you decide to not, when you decide to question your belief, you then come from a place of understanding and no judgment. You don't judge yourself and you don't judge her being the mother. You just know what's best for your family. You communicate that with your man, or you communicate that with your girl and say, this is how we're going to move forward. And especially if you're a minor, you be honest with your woman and say, hey, this is hard for me, but this is how I would like us to move forward. All right. So let's keep on going. Let's get into the last part that I'm going to read. And we'll start at 57. The minor archetype has a codependency with his mom. She needs him and he needs her. They have created a paradigm in which he leans and she holds up. For her, the need to be needed by her boy has overshadowed her ability to see the bigger need of her son to morph into his own man. She's only seen his manhood as against her and, in a sense, resented it. She fears the connection with her son will be lost if he wanders into the world without her consent and forms meaningful bonds outside of their relationship. The scary part is she may not realize this controlling behavior. She may not understand the detriment it poses to this man's life and possibly their future relationship. This mother only views her son as a boy, unable to stand on his own because, well, he shouldn't have to stand on his own. As a matter of fact, he doesn't have to for as long as she is alive. Ironically enough, if you were to ask her of the type of man she desires, the characteristics she instilled in her child would most likely turn her completely off. Yet, when it comes to her son, the need to hover is her source of emotional security and far outweighs any parental logic and reason. But what about when she is not around? How will her boy function in manhood for himself and his family? How to turn mama's boy into Big Papa. If you are the minor or have minor-like tendencies, you need to embrace one characteristic which I'm confident you have already considered, be it through this reading or at some point by your own emotional intelligence. Independence. How does the minor gain independence? Here's a two-step process to follow, and I'm going to go over a little bit of number one. Grow in the shadow. I learned this lesson when my son took cover in my shadow as the sun's rays beamed down on us. I suppose it was too overwhelming for him, but this was a teachable moment along my parental journey. There is a shadow every man grows in. The shadow of his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, or in our case, mom. You've been in the shadow of those who you looked up to as models of how to exist in this world since you were born. What you learned in the shadow helped to shape your perceptions. Of course, you can change your worldview, but not behind the shadow and not before recognizing that you are operating within one. In the shadow, you see no light and feel no heat. The object, or in this case, the person in front of you, acts as a shield, which is fine for a while when you don't want to be hot, but there will come a day that the heat of life will test you. And depending on how long you have hidden in the shadow, you and everyone else around you will see if you come out of the heat pure as gold or charred as charcoal. I want you to come out pure as gold. The best way to do that is working on you in the shadows. It is necessary to be the detective of your life and look at how the shadow of your mother has affected your manhood. How critically impairing it is for a man, any man, gay, straight, or in between, to be overly dependent in the shadow of their mother. No matter how much you revere your mother for her greatness, her press, her tunnel vision, especially when it comes to the love she showed you, you are indeed a man. It is in your best interest to discover how to be a man by learning how to accept and live out the unique expression of yourself. I believe we are all born originals, but too many of us die carbon copies. I'm going to stop right there. All right. I'm going to stop right there. If you want to get the rest of this section, then I will be reading this on Instagram. I'm going to be over on Instagram next, and I believe I'm going to do it on Friday. Friday, I think it's April 30th. So it'll be Friday, 8 p.m., April 30th, on Instagram, or I may change it to Saturday. So just stay in tune. I'm gonna make sure that I upload the schedule so you all can see. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for joining over on this part 2 of the virtual book tour over on YouTube. We discussed a lot, and there's a lot that I would love to get more into, but for the sake of time, because I want to keep this between 30 to 35 minutes, I want to honor your time and honor mine's. I'll open up the platform for any questions for anyone who has any questions. I'll stay up here for about 30 seconds if there's no questions. So I'll start the timer now. We're at 31:55. So I started now. If there's any questions about what was read, any questions that you have about the book, about my journey in producing this book, I am open to answering those questions now. And you got 20 more seconds. So I'll wait here, give you that awkward silence. And oh, you know what? I won't do the awkward silence. I'll actually let you know. If you have Instagram and you're not connected with me there, go over at Mr. Aim for I Am. So that's MRAIM, the number 4IAM. That's what my handle is over on Instagram. And again, you can check me on my Instagram live, which it'll be either this Friday or this Saturday. We'll be making the final conclusion on that today. All right. So I haven't seen any questions. Thanks for joining again for this virtual book tour part 2. Join me for part 3 over on Instagram at Mr. Aim for I Am. I can't wait to see you there. Listen, if no one has told you, allow me to be the first. I see the supreme lover in you. All right. Blessings. And thanks again for coming on. Peace. Yeah, I don't know how to exit it.